Chapter 46. Luo departed on his mission and found Zhu Jiang seated in his little craft. "There has been so much to do that I have not been able to come to listen to your instructions," said Luo. "That is truly so," said Zhu Jiang, "and I have not yet congratulated the Commander-in-Chief. What have you wished to congratulate him upon?" "Why, sir, the matter upon which he sent you to find out whether I knew about it or not." "Indeed, I can congratulate him on that." Luo turned pale and gasped, saying, "But how did you know, master?" The ruse succeeded well thus played off on John Gan. "Cao Cao has been taken in this once, but he will soon rise to it. Only he will not confess his mistake. However, the 2 men are gone, and the Southland is freed from a grave anxiety. Do you not think that is a matter for congratulation? I hear Mao Jai and Yu Jin are the new admirals, and in their hands lie both good and evil for the fate of the Northern Fleet." Luo was quite dumbfounded. He stayed a little time longer, passing the time in making empty remarks, and then took his leave. As he was going away, Zhu Jiang cautioned him, saying, "Do not let Yu know that I know his ruse. If you let him know, he will seek some chance to do me harm." Luo promised. Nevertheless, he went straight to his chief and related the whole thing just as it happened. "Really he must be got rid of," said Yu. "I have quite decided to put the man out of the way. If you slay him, will not Cao Cao laugh at you? Oh no. I will find a legitimate way of getting rid of him so that he shall go to his death without resentment." "But how can you find a legitimate way of assassinating him?" "Do not ask too much. You will see presently." Soon after, all the officers were summoned to the main tent, and Zhu Jiang's presence was desired. He went contentedly enough. When all were seated, Yu suddenly addressed Zhu Jiang, saying, "I am going to fight a battle with the enemy soon on the water. What weapons are the best?" "On a great river, arrows are the best," said Zhu Jiang. "Your opinion and mine agree, but at the moment we are short of them. I wish you would undertake to supply about 100,000 arrows for the naval fight. As it is for the public service, you will not decline, I hope." "Whatever task the Commander-in-Chief lays upon me, I must certainly try to perform," replied Zhu Jiang. "May I inquire by what date you require the 100,000 arrows?" "Could you have them ready in 10 days? The enemy will be here very soon." "10 days will be too late," said Zhu Jiang. "In how many days do you estimate the arrows can be ready?" "Let me have 3 days. Then you may send for your 100,000. "No joking, remember," said Yu. "There is no joking in wartime. Dare I joke with the Commander-in-Chief? Give me a formal military order. If I have not completed the task in 3 days, I will take my punishment." Yu, secretly delighted, sent for the secretaries and prepared the commission then and there. Then he drank to the success of the undertaking and said, "I shall have to congratulate you most heartily when this is accomplished." "This day is too late to count," said Zhu Jiang. "On the 3rd from tomorrow morning send 500 soldiers to the riverside to convey the arrows." They drank a few more cups together, and then Zhu Jiang took his leave. After he had gone, Luo said, "Do you not think there is some deceit about this?" "Clearly it is not I. It is he who has signed his own death warrant," said Yu. Without being pressed in the least, he asked for formal order in the face of the whole assembly. Even if he grew a pair of wings, he could not escape. "Only I will just order the workers to delay him as much as they can, and not supply him with materials, so that he is sure to fail. And then, when a certain penalty is incurred, who can criticize? You can go and inquire about it all, and keep me informed." So ordered Luo to seek Zhu Jiang, who at once reproached him with having blabbed about the former business. "Zhu Jiang said he wants to hurt me, as you know, and I did not think you could not keep my secret. And now there is what you saw today, and how do you think I can get 100,000 arrows made in 3 days? You will simply have to rescue me." "You brought the misfortune on yourself, and how can I rescue you?" said Luo. "I look to you for the loan of 20 vessels, manned each by 30 people. I want blue cotton screens and bundles of straw lashed to the sides of the boats. I have good use for them. On the third day, I shall undertake to deliver the fixed number of arrows. But on no account must you let Zhu Yu know, or my scheme will be wrecked." Lu Su consented, and this time he kept his word. He went to report to his chief as usual, but he said nothing about the boats. He only said Zhu Jiang is not using bamboo or feathers or glue or varnish, but has some other way of getting arrows. "Let us await the 3 days limit," said Zhu Yu, puzzled though confident. On his side, Lu Su quietly prepared a score of light, swift boats, each with its crew and the blue screens and bundles of grass complete, and when these were ready, he placed them at Zhu Jiang's disposal. Zhu Jiang did nothing on the first day nor on the second. On the third day, at the middle of the fourth watch, Zhu Jiang sent a private message asking Lu Su to come to his boat. "Why have you sent for me, sir?" asked Lu Su. "I want you to go with me to get those arrows." "Whither are you going?" "Do not ask. You'll see." Then the 20 boats were fastened together by long ropes and moved over to the north bank. The night proved very foggy, and the mist was very dense along the river, so that one person could scarcely see another. In spite of the fog, Zhu Jiang urged the boats forward, as if into the vast fairy kingdom. There is a poem on these river fogs. Mighty indeed is the great river, rising far in the west in the Imayan mountains, ploughing its way through east-flowing resistless, swelled by its 9 tributary streams, rolling down from the far north, aided and helped by 100 rivulets swirling and foaming. Ocean receives it at last welcoming, joyful its waters. Therein abide sea nymphs and water gods, enormous whales 1,000 fathoms long, 9-headed monstrous beasts, reptiles and octopi, demons and uncouth creatures wondrous strange. In faith it is the home and safe retreat of devils and sprites and wondrous growths, and eke the battle-ground of valiant humans. At times occurs strange strife of elements, when darkness strives on night's domains that encroach, where it arises in the vaulted dome of blue, wide wreaths of fog that pour the centre roll. Then darkness falls too dense for any torch, illumine only clanging sounds can pass. The fog at first appears a vaporous wreath, scarce visible, but thickening fast it veils the southern hills, the painted leopard's home, and spreads afar until the northern sea. Leviathans are amazed and lose their course, and denser yet it touches on the sky, and spreads a heavy mantle over the earth. Then wide as is the high-pitched arch of heaven, therein appears no single rift of blue. Now mighty whales lead up their spouses to sport. Upon the waves the sinuous dragons dive, deep down and breathing swell the heaving sea. The earth is moist as with the early rains, and spring's creative energy is chilled. Both far and wide and high the damp fog spreads. Great cities on the eastern bank are hid. Wide ports and mountains in the south are lost. Whole fleets of battleships, 1,000 keels, hide in the misty depths, frail fishing boats, high riding on a wave are seen and lost. The gloom increases and the dome sky grows dark and darker as the sun's light fails. The daylight dies, dim twilight's reign begins. The ruddy hills dissolve and lose their hue. The skill of matchless King Yu would fail to sound. The depth and height and Lilu's eye, though keen, could never pierce this gloom. Now is the time, O sea and river gods, to use your powers. The gliding fish and creeping water folk are lost. There is no track for bird or beast. Fair Pinyin Isles are hidden from our sight. The lofty gates of heaven have disappeared. Nature is blurred and indistinct as when a driving rainstorm hurries over the earth, and then perhaps within the heavy haze a noisome serpent vents his venom foul, and plagues descend or impish demons walk their wicked wills. Ills fall on humans but do not stay. Heaven's cleansing breath sweeps them sway, but while they last the mean ones cry. The nobler suffer silently. The greatest turmoil is a sign of quick return to state benign. The little fleet reached Cao Cao's naval camp about the 5th watch, and Zhu Jiang gave orders to form line lying prows west, and then to beat the drums and shout. "But what shall we do if they attack us?" exclaimed Lu Su. Zhu Jiang replied with a smile, "I think their fleet will not venture out in this fog. Go on with your wine and let us be happy. We will go back when the fog lifts. As soon as the shouting from the river was heard by those in the camp, the two admirals, Mao Jai and Yu Jin, ran off to report to Cao Cao, who said, "Coming up in a fog like this means that they have prepared an ambush for us. Do not go out, but get all the force together and shoot at them." He also sent orders to the ground camps to dispatch 6,000 of archers and crossbowmen to aid the marines. The naval forces were then lined up shooting on the bank to prevent a landing. Presently the soldiers arrived, and 10,000 and more soldiers were shooting down into the river, where the arrows fell like rain. By and by Zhu Jiang ordered the boats to turn round so that their prows pointed east and to go closer, in so that many arrows might hit them. Zhu Jiang ordered the drums to be kept beating till the sun was high, and the fog began to disperse when the boats got under way and sailed downstream. The whole 20 boats were bristling with arrows on both sides. As they left, Zhu Jiang asked all the crews to shout derisively, "We thank you, Sir Prime Minister, for the arrows." They told Cao Cao, but by the time he came, the light boats helped by the swift current were 7 miles long down the river, and pursuit was impossible. Cao saw that he had been duped and was very sorry, but there was no help for it. On the way down, Zhu Jiang said to his companion, "Every boat must have 5 or 6,000 arrows, and so, without the expenditure of an ounce of energy, we must have more than 10 myriad arrows, which tomorrow can be shot back again at Cao Cao's army to his great inconvenience." "You are really superhuman," said Liu Su. "But how did you know there would be a thick fog today? One cannot be a leader without knowing the workings of heaven and the ways of earth. One must understand the secret gates and the interdependence of the elements, the mysteries of tactics and the value of forces. It is but an ordinary talent. I calculated 3 days ago that there would be a fog today, and so I set the limit at 3 days. Zhu Yu would give me 10 days, but neither artificers nor materials, so that he might find occasion to put me to death as I knew. But my fate lies with the Supreme, and how could Zhu Yu harm me?" Liu Su could not but agree. When the boats arrived, 500 soldiers were in readiness on the bank to carry away the arrows. Zhu Jiang bade them go on board the boats, collect them, and bear them to the tent of the commander-in-chief. Liu Su went to report that the arrows had been obtained, and told Zhu Yu by what means. Zhu Yu was amazed and sighed sadly, saying, "He is better than I. His methods are more than human." Thick lies the fog on the river. Nature is shrouded in white. Distant and near are confounded. Banks are no longer in sight. Fast fly the pattering arrows. Stick in the boats of the fleet. Now can full tale be delivered. Zhu Jiang is victor complete. When shortly after his return, Zhu Jiang went to the tent of the commander-in-chief, he was welcomed by Zhu Yu, who came forward to greet him, saying, "Your superhuman predictions compel one's esteem." "There is nothing remarkable in that trifling trick," replied he. Zhu Yu led him within, and wine was brought. Then Zhu Yu said, "My lord sent yesterday to urge me to advance, but I have no master plan ready. I wish you would assist me, master." "But where should I, a man of poor everyday ability, find such a plan as you desire? I saw the enemy's naval camp test lately, and it looked very complete and well organized. It is not an ordinary place to attack. I have thought of a plan, but I am not sure it will answer. I should be happy if you would decide for me." "General," replied Zhu Jiang, "do not say what your plan is, but each of us will write in the palm of his hand and see whether our opinions agree." So brush and ink were sent for, and Zhu Yu first wrote on his own palm, and then passed the pen to Zhu Jiang, who also wrote. Then, getting close together on the same bench, he each showed his hand to the other, and both burst out laughing, for both had written the same word, fire. "Since we are of the same opinion," said Zhu Yu, "there is no longer any doubt. But our intentions must be kept secret. Both of us are public servants, and what would be the sense of telling our plans? I do not think Cao Cao will be on his guard against this, although he has had 2 experiences. You may put your scheme into force." They finished their wine and separated. Not an officer knew a word of their plans. Now Cao Cao had expended a myriad arrows in vain, and was much irritated in consequence. He deeply desired revenge. Then Zhan Yu proposed a ruse, saying, "The two strategists on the side of the enemy are Zhu Yu and Zhu Jiang, two men most difficult to get the better of. Let us send someone who shall pretend to surrender to them, but really be a spy on our behalf and a helper in our schemes. When we know what is doing, we can plan to meet it." "I had thought of that myself," replied Cao Cao. "Whom do you think the best person to send?" "Kai Mao has been put to death, but all his clan and family are in the army, and his two younger brothers are junior generals. You have them most securely in your power, and may send them to surrender. The ruler of the Southland will never suspect deceit there." Cao decided to act on this plan, and in the evening summoned Kai Zhong and Kai He to his tent, where he told them, saying, "I want you to pretend to surrender to the Southland so that you can gather intelligence and send it back. When all done, you will be richly rewarded. But do not betray me." "Our families are in Jingzhou, and that place is yours," replied they. "Should we dare betray?" "You need have no doubts, sir. You will soon see the heads of both Zhu Yu and Zhu Jiang at your feet." Cao gave them generous gifts. Soon after, the two men, each with his 500 soldiers, set sail with a fair wind for the opposite bank. Now, as Zhu Yu was preparing for the attack, the arrival of some northern ships was announced. They bore the two younger brothers of Kai Mao, who had come as deserters. They were led in, and bowing before the general, said, weeping, "Our innocent brother has been put to death, and we desire vengeance. So we have come to offer allegiance to you. We pray you appoint us to the vanguard." Zhu Yu appeared very pleased and made them presents. Then he ordered them to join Gan Ning in leading the van. They thanked him, and regarded their scheme as already a success. But Zhu Yu gave Gan Ning secret orders, saying, "They have come without their families, and so I know their desertion is only pretense. They have been sent as spies, and I am going to meet their ruse with one of my own. They shall have some information to send. You will treat them well, but keep a careful guard over them. On the day our soldiers start the offense, they shall be sacrificed to the flag. But be very careful that nothing goes wrong." Gan Ning went away. Then Lu Su came to tell Zhu Yu, saying, "Everyone agrees in thinking the surrender of Kai Zhong and Kai He feigned, and they should be rejected. But they wish to revenge the death of their brother," said the Fleet Admiral. "Where is the pretense? If you are so suspicious, you will receive nobody at all." Lu Su left much piqued and went to see Zhu Jiang, to whom he told the story. Zhu Jiang only smiled. "Why do you smile?" said Lu Su. "I smile at your simplicity. The general is playing a game. Spies cannot easily come and go, so these two have been sent to feign desertion, that they may act as spies. The general is meeting one ruse with another. He wants them to give false information. Deceit is not to be despised in war, and his scheme is the correct one to employ." Then Lu Su understood. That night, as Zhu Yu was sitting in his tent, one guy came to see him privately. Zhu Yu said, "You have surely some wise plan to propose that you come at night like this." One guy replied, "The enemy are more numerous than we, and it is wrong to delay. Why not burn them out?" "Who suggested that to you?" "I thought of it myself." "Nobody suggested it," replied one guy. "I just wanted something like this, and that is why I kept those two pretended deserters. I want them to give some false news. The pity is that I have no one to feign desertion to the other side and work my plan." "But I will carry out your plan," said one guy. "But if you cannot show some injury, you will not be believed," said Zhu Yu. "The Sun family have been very generous to me, and I would not resent being crushed to death to repay them," said one guy. Zhu Yu bowed and thanked him, saying, "If you would not object to some bodily suffering, then the Southland would indeed be happy. Kill me, I do not mind," repeated one guy as he took his leave. Next day the drums called all the officers together to the commander-in-chief's tent, and Zhu Jian came with the others. Zhu Yu said, "The enemy's camps extend about 100 miles, so that the campaign will be a long one. Each leader is to prepare supplies for 3 months. Scarcely had he spoken when one guy started up, crying, "Say not 3 months. Be ready for 30 months, and even then it will not be ended. If you can destroy them this month, then all is well. If you cannot, then it were better to take Zhang Zhao's advice, throw down your weapons, turn to the north and surrender. Zhu Yu's anger flared up, and he flushed, crying, "Our Lord's orders were to destroy Cao Cao, and whoever mentioned the word surrender should be put to death. Now, the very moment when the two armies are to engage, you dare talk of surrender and damp the ardor of my army. If I do not slay you, how can I support the others?" He ordered the lictors to remove Huan Gai and execute him without delay. Huan Gai then flamed up in turn, saying, "This is the third generation since I went with General Sun Jian, and we overran the southeast. Whence have you sprung up?" This made Zhu Yu perfectly furious, and Huan Gai was ordered to instant death. But Gan Ning interfered. Said he is a veteran officer of the Southland. Pray pardon him. "What are you prating about?" cried Zhu Yu. "Dare you come between me and my duty?" Turning to the lictors, Zhu Yu ordered them to drive Gan Ning forth with blows. The other officials fell on their knees entreating pity for Huan Gai. "He is indeed most worthy of death, but it would be a loss to the army. We pray you forgive him. Record his fault for the moment, and after the enemy shall have been defeated, then put him to death." But Zhu Yu was implacable. The officers pleaded with tears. At length he seemed moved, saying, "Had you not interceded, he should certainly have suffered death. But now I will mitigate the punishment to a beating. He shall not die." Zhu Yu turned the lictors and bade them deal the culprit 100 blows. Again his colleagues prayed for remission, but Zhu Yu angrily pushed over the table in front of him and roared to the officers to get out of the way and let the sentence be executed. So Huan Gai was stripped, thrown to the ground, and 50 blows were given. At this point the officers again prayed that he be let off. Zhu Yu sprang from his chair and pointing his finger, Huan Gai said, "If you dare flout me again, you shall have the other 50. If you are guilty of any disrespect, you shall be punished for both faults." With this he turned into the inner part of the tent, railing as he went, while the officers helped their beaten colleague to his feet. He was in a deplorable state. His back was cut in many places, and the blood was flowing in streams. They led him to his own quarters, and on the way he swooned several times. His case seemed most pitiable. Lu Su went to see the suffering officer, and then called on Zhu Liang in his boat. Lu Su related the story of the beating, and said, though the other officers had been cowed into silence, "I thought you, sir, might have interceded. You are a guest, and not under Zhu Yu's orders. Why did you stand by with your hands up your sleeves and say never a word?" "You insult me," said Zhu Liang, smiling. "Why do you say that?" "I have never insulted you, never since the day we came here together. Do you not know that terrible beating was but a ruse? How could I try to dissuade Zhu Yu?" Then Lu Su began to perceive, and Zhu Liang continued, saying, "Our cow would not be taken in unless there was some real bodily suffering. Zhu Yu is going to send Huan Gai over as a deserter, and Zhu Yu will see to it that the 2 Cao Cao spies duly tell the tale. But when you see the general, you must not tell him that I saw through the ruse. You say that I am very angry like the others." Lu Su went to see Zhu Yu and asked, "Why have you so cruelly beaten a proved and trusty officer?" "Do the officers resent it?" asked Zhu Yu. "They are all upset about it." "And what does your friend think?" "Zhu Liang also resents it in his heart, and he thinks you have made a mistake." "Then I have deceived him for once," said Zhu Yu gleefully. "What mean you?" cried Lu Su. "The beating that Huan Gai got is part of my ruse. I am sending him to Cao Cao as a deserter, and so I have supplied a reason for desertion. Then I am going to use fire against the enemy." Lu Su kept silence, but he recognized that Zhu Liang was again right. Meanwhile Huan Gai lay in his tent, whither all his colleague officers went to condole with him and inquire after his health. But Huan Gai would say never a word. He only lay sighing deeply from time to time. But when the strategist Kanzi came, Huan Gai told them to bring him to the room where he lay. Then he bade the servants go away. Kanzi said, "Surely you must have some serious quarrel with the general." "I have none," said Huan Gai. "Then this beating is just part of a ruse." "How did you guess?" said Huan Gai. "Because I watched the general, and I guessed about 9/10 of the truth." Huan Gai said, You see, I have been very generously treated by the Sun family, all three of them, and have no means of showing my gratitude except by offering to help in this ruse. True, I suffer, but I do not regret that. Among all those I know in the army, there is not one I am intimate with except yourself. You are true, and I can talk with you as a friend. I suppose you wish me to present your surrender letter to Cao Cao. Is that it? Just that will you do it? Said Huan Kai. Kanzi consented joyfully. Even the warrior's body is but a stake in the game. The friends so ready to help him proves that their hearts are the same. Kanzi's reply will be read in the next chapter.